Which VCR is right for you, VHS or Beta? VHS video cassettes play longer, which can save you money.
Big deal.
Beta produces the best possible picture.
Big deal.
What may be no big deal to some people may be a big deal to you. That's why NEC makes both VHS and Beta to give you the best choice. Which VCR is right for you? NEC.
These are your NEC big dealers.
Welcome to the main event of the evening! In a four-way dance, they will battle for supremacy in corner number 1, VHS. In corner number 2, Betamax.
In dollars and cents, hot competition in the home video market has manufacturers reeling.
Beta manufacturers have long claimed a superior picture over VHS, and Sanyo is hoping to woo what's called the high-end market.
Why did Betamax lose to JVC? Many thought the Betamax machine would win. It had the better image quality, and the Betamax is decidedly better built.
When the Sony Betamax recorder hit video stores in 1975, it had virtually no competition. Then other Japanese firms came up with the VHS system, allowing longer recording times, and Sony's share of the VCR market worldwide slipped to its present level of less than 10%.
Betamax actually came out first. It hit the market in 1975. Betamax really didn't hit it big until 79, 80, which just so happened to be the same time that VHS was hitting it big. So right from the start, VHS, Betamax, bumping heads.
If you're looking at video cassette recorders and you're confused by all your choices, just look at the most important feature of all, the picture. And Sony Betamax records a sharper picture than VHS. That's not just our opinion. In tests throughout the country, more people said the picture was sharper with Sony Betamax than VHS. So why doesn't anyone else talk sharper picture? Because no one else can. Betamax, a sharper picture.
In Britain, only about 1.5 million homes use Betamax. But Sony are not dismayed.
As far as those people who want quality and reliability and durability, it is still Sony. And what they're getting is this Rolls-Royce type product at very competitive prices. There are fewer Rolls-Royces on the marketplace as well than other cars. And as far as Sony's concerned, we would never expect to have a large share of the market because we appeal to people who want to buy on quality and reliability consistently.
Well, I can say that I've for years used a beta system because I thought it produced the best pictures, and I still believe it produces the best pictures. Unfortunately, that hasn't helped it, that hasn't meant that it succeeds. I'm as sad as they are actually over that, although I'm sure they don't say they're sad. I'm disappointed. I'd be very sorry to see beta disappear. I hope it doesn't, but I feel it will cling on by the skin of its teeth.
Betamax, their selling point was, we cost more, but the picture is better. The audio is better, which they were right. However, the average person did not care, okay? You had a 20-inch TV, all right? You did not have the big 60-inch TVs now to where picture quality really matters all that much. You had a 20-inch. And back then, the people were still using rabbit ears, you know? They get the better picture, you turn this way. No, you stand here, you stand there. Hold the fork up there to get the better picture. And eventually it's snowy, it's got static, but alright, it's good enough. Same way with buying a movie. A movie that was in good picture quality was fine enough. This one had better picture quality. Yeah, it cost more too. That's the way the average person looked at Betamax. It did not matter the picture was better. We could not really tell on a 20-inch TV. You gotta remember, the home video industry was a young industry. Home video sales and rentals was a somewhat new concept. So people went with what was cheaper. Alright, people did not care that Betamax was that much better. They went with what was cheaper. Let's say you bought a movie on Betamax, then bought a movie on VHS. The Betamax was better, but the blank tapes was a different story. The majority of Betamax players did not have B1 speed, which was the slowest recording speed. So a off-the-air Betamax tape and a off-the-air VHS tape were pretty much the same quality. So right there, the edge of Betamax being the better picture was taken right off the mat. One thing that both had was they were smaller than other tapes that came before, but as you can see, size-wise, they were pretty darn close. So neither one really had an advantage in that way. Just on the business side, VHS was better than Betamax from the distributors, movie studios, manufacturers. Just the industry as a whole had the support behind VHS that Betamax just lacked.
Currently, VHS have 70% of the UK market. Thorn EMI control 3 of the biggest high street rental chains, making VHS widely available. At New Haven, the largest factory of its kind in the UK, they manufacture and assemble VCRs. And running at full capacity, they can produce 240,000 VHS machines a week. Rather the way Thorn EMI welcomed and embraced the VHS system.
As far as the part of the organisation that I'm responsible for, that of Ferguson, we had a large opportunity in the market through an established distribution network. We did a lot of preparatory work in terms of dealer training. Big educational role we played in the late 70s before the market really started to develop, and I think that really stood us in very good stead from a marketing point of view. We just took the view that if it was in video, we were going to try and have a go at everything, and that came through.
Despite coming out 16 months before VHS, Sony have never managed to get in on the rental chains. Concentrating more on volume sales, this is their distribution centre in Slough, their machines tend to be cheaper. But even so, they only have just over 20% of the market.
The ultimate killer, though, was the rental market. Well, Betamax focused its ads and energies on time shifting. Their ads featured headlines like "Watch Whatever, Whenever." Well, JVC, the maker of the VHS system, created relationships with the nascent video rental industry.
We've got this extraordinary situation in this country whereby a lot of people don't buy, they rent. And VHS managed to get the Thorn EMI rental group on their side, and from then on it was a foregone conclusion.
When this market grew, VHS dominated in titles. And while you could for a while find both formats, eventually retailers began giving shelf space to the slightly more dominant brand, which then dominated even more.
Now some techno news from overseas. If you own a beta format VCR, you may have noticed that it's become increasingly difficult to buy or rent pre-recorded product on that format. The maker of the beta machine has noticed as well, and now Sony will market hardware in VHS for the first time.
A number of movie studios stopped releasing beta tapes. That discouraged consumers from buying new beta recorders and left Sony dealers calling for a VHS machine.
As a leading manufacturer of videotape recorder, we think that it is our responsibility to meet with those diversifying demands of the customer.
Some market analysts say the announcement spells the beginning of the end for the beta format. But Sony points out there are still about 25 million Betamax recorders in use around the world, more than 5 million of them in North America.
Because of that, we think that it is also our responsibility to maintain this Betamax for those customers, as well as for the new customers who think Betamax is the best system.
Sony still believes the beta format provides better picture quality and is therefore the best system for taping TV shows. Sony will also continue development of its 8mm video camera, although it too has had disappointing sales. The camera can be hooked up to the beta or the new Sony VHS recorders for playback. Sony plans to introduce its VHS recorders in Europe this spring, in Japan this summer, and in the United States sometime before the end of the year.
Another beta manufacturer, Toshiba, is taking a different approach. If you can't beat them, join them. Toshiba is introducing its first VHS machine.
We feel that Toshiba has the capabilities of providing both formats for the customer. Let them pick out which one they choose.
As you could see, it was everything. Marketing, distribution, the adult movie industry.
When you look at new technologies that come out, the first adopters are usually porn. The debate between Betamax and VHS. The critical mass came from the people that were consuming porn.
There now I'd prefer watching the video home tapes in the privacy of my own home.
That privacy that home video systems afford has been a tremendous boon to the pornography industry. At one large video chain, X-rated movies have made up as much as 50% of the rental business.
If Warner Brothers and Paramount and MGM and the others run through a dry spell where they don't issue or release many new titles, I think the X-rateds pick up during that period of time. But overall, it's about 35 or 40%.
SAIA estimates that 70% of the people who own home video systems have at least one X-rated tape in their library. And this is largely made up of people who wouldn't dream of going out to an adult movie theater.
So, the Betamax versus VHS dispels the notion that simply being first to market is the most important issue. It reminds us that technical excellence in one area isn't enough, here the superior picture quality of Betamax, but that all technical aspects matter. For any mass-manufactured object, the winner is usually the one that is just good enough.
Video store owners, the mindset of the average movie buyer, the price tag, everything just came together in a perfect storm that helped VHS dominate over Betamax. And ultimately, it's what made VHS the most dominant video format that humankind has ever known. In corner number 3 is Laserdisc.
The latest and greatest movies are on Laserdisc at Video and Sound downtown. For about the same price as a new VCR, you can enjoy movies the way they were meant to be seen. Look at this selection. Who can boast of more makes and models than Video and Sound? The movie titles now number over 4,000 with new releases every day. Movie lovers watch on Laserdisc. Drop by for a look. There's always a Laserdisc movie on at Video and Sound's downtown location on Center Street.
Most want to watch a movie at home, we turn on the VCR. But a growing number of movie lovers are turning to Laserdisc players to get a better picture. Are Laserdisc players poised to make your VCR obsolete? Consumer Reports has the answer.
Laserdisc, finally something to take on VHS, to finally run them out of business. No, I don't think so.
After years of stagnant sales, Laserdisc players are starting to take off. Manufacturers are hoping that these machines will do to the VCR what the compact disc did to the LP. But after examining some of the latest models, Consumer Reports says don't rush out to buy one. There are too many trade-offs. On the plus side, you do get a sharper picture.
It has a much higher data rate, bandwidth, so with all that extra information, it can translate into better resolution, less picture noise, and an overall better picture.
Sound quality is also top-notch, so you can enjoy the movie theater experience in your own living room.
Hey look, it's a giant DVD, alright. That's what a younger person told me when I let them see this, a giant DVD. Well, they were half right.
The Consumer Report says Laserdisc players still have a lot of drawbacks. The most obvious, they can't record, so you'll still need a VCR to tape your favorite shows.
In December of 1978, the DiscoVision would hit the market. In 1980, it was renamed the Laserdisc. Now you have to remember, this was just 2 years after the VCR came out, so the two formats really did bump heads. Now, how did VHS kick Laserdisc's butt? Well, there are various reasons why. You know, it's like my dad would say, here you could not go to Kmart or Walmart and buy a Laserdisc. They were not in stock. So even if you wanted to buy a Laserdisc, they were not widely distributed.
And although prices have dropped, Laserdisc players are still expensive, in the $500 range.
Look at that, $4.99. Another reason why is people said they were too expensive. But you have to remember, a VCR once cost $500. So really $500 for a Laserdisc player was really not all that outrageous. However, at the time, you could buy a pretty good VCR for $150, or a pawn shop, electronic repair shop, and buy one for $50. Even then, a 10-year-old VCR, if taken care of properly, worked pretty darn good. Why? because VCRs were built to last.
Finally, there's another price to pay. If you want to watch a movie, you have to buy it at $20, $30, or even $100 a clip. Few video stores rent laser discs.
Any plans to start renting discs soon?
No, right now we're just going to be a sales.
I see.
If you talk about the price of films, they start from $19.99. If you're comparing that to VHS, is about $12.99. But really, what you're getting is quite considerable increase in quality for the extra money. You're getting far superior picture quality, far superior sound quality. And in addition to that, all the benefits of compact disc, such as instant access and durability. So you're getting quite a lot more value for money.
The picture and audio quality was better. However, if you had a 22-inch TV from 1990, there really was not that much of a difference between VHS and Laserdisc. But now we have, 70-inch TVs, surround sound speakers and everything else. So today, you really can, tell the difference.
Obviously, if you look at this and think the sound quality or the picture quality isn't what you want, then wait for HD TV. But the whole point is to get people to actually look at this. And once you've looked at this, I think most people are going to say, no, that's great, that's all I want.
I think in many cases people must be very cautious about going out and buying equipment now, because as I said, it's really 1995 we're talking about with some of these systems coming online. And I think you'd have to think very carefully before going out and buying a widescreen television now, thinking that you're going to get the full definition widescreen pictures. So I think probably the answer would be to hang on until the services are there.
That's a great selling point, ain't it? Laserdisc is better picture, better quality, but we do not have the televisions yet that can optimize the full potential. That's like Ford coming out and saying, we built a car that gets 100 miles to a gallon, but we do not have a transmission for it yet. But you should buy one, because in 5 years, we might have the transmission. That's just insanity.
I put a lot of information into the frame. And often on television, when our widescreen Panavision movies are panned and scanned, you're only seeing half a movie.
Pan and scan is a process by which an editor frames the scene so it will fit on television, and letterboxing shows you the original film as it was seen in the theaters, as it was intended to be seen. Well, supplementary material is really the thing that brings people closer to that whole Hollywood experience. It's what makes film watching interesting. In the case of the new Alien box set that just came out, they have about a dozen different posters that they were going to use but never did, and you can really see how the theatrical campaign built up from where it started until where it finished, and you get a chance to watch the infamous cocoon scene that was never shown in the theaters but people have heard about and talked about for a long time. It's there in its entirety. One of the great supplementary features is an opportunity to see behind the scenes. In this case, you get to follow the cast and the crew when they were actually filming. You get to watch a little bit behind the effect from still photography. You notice that in a lot of these stills there are some pretty candid shots, so the director's probably pulling from his own archives when he puts this stuff together. There's just so much more stuff that you can get on a Laserdisc than you can on a VHS tape.
Includes a behind-the-scenes special through the eyes of Forrest Gump. Yep, Forrest Gump had a making of featurette, which is pretty good, interesting. However, at the time, it really didn't matter. The average movie buyer did not care about behind the scenes or the director commentary. People didn't care what the director thought. They really didn't. Today, kind of 50-50. Like my dad, again, for example, he never watched a single special feature his whole life. It was the movie and that's it. Today, a lot of people do not care about the bonus content. That's why streaming kind of hit, DVDs and Blu-rays really hard, because people want to watch the movie and that's it. So really, special additional features, behind the scenes, the trailers, whatever, really did not help these things sell that many numbers. It just didn't.
So for now, don't give up your VCR.
Now, Laserdisc, it was a lot like Apollo Creed, all right? It was the better fighter, stronger, faster, more agility. Apollo Creed Laserdisc had everything it took to win. But, however, its opponent, VHS Rocky, kept punching, kept coming and coming. The final movie produced for Laserdisc would come in 2001. However, Laserdisc players were in production until 2009. So Laserdisc had a 13-year run, which was not bad. Unfortunately, it did not do good business. It could not find its audience. It could not find its feet. It just didn't become part of Americana like VHS did. This was a failed format that VHS kicked its butt.
Carol, kind of interesting, a few years ago, these were pretty much dead, but they seem to be coming back, I think primarily because you can use some of them as we showed in the CD players here, so people are probably starting to rediscover them again.
Well, it makes the decision a lot easier. Thanks,
Yeah, I don't know
Mike.
if they're going to push VCRs off the market, though.
All right, thanks.
And in the final corner, the tag team of DVDs and Blu-rays.
This is DVD. And this is what happens when you watch DVD. It's a movie on a disc the size of a CD. The picture is twice as sharp as VHS. The sound is infinitely clearer. It looks and sounds like you're at the movies, but you can experience it at home.
Now we get down to the real nitty-gritty. VHS versus DVDs and Blu-rays. Now the question is, which one is the dominant home video format? Because they took over the home video market. That is a very interesting question.
So you've heard about DVD.
Have you seen DVD?
Well, this is DVD.
It looks just like a CD, but it holds much more information, and it's redefining home entertainment.
The world is turning to DVD for a better way to watch movies and concert videos. DVD isn't just better than a VCR, it's amazingly better.
Here's a scene from a movie on VHS cassette. Now here's the same scene on DVD. See the difference?
DVD gives you a digital picture, twice as sharp as a VCR. The image is cleaner, the colors are brighter. Now movies look the way they were meant to look. And the sound will blow you away.
The soundtrack on a DVD is digital too, but many of today's movies and concerts are made to be enjoyed in multi-channel surround sound. It uses 6 separate channels to put you at the center of the action. DVD supports the Dolby Digital standard for surround sound, so now you can hear movies the way the studio engineer hears them. Just listen to the difference. DVDs can also include entertaining extras like trailers, behind-the-scenes interviews, making-of features, or the director's commentary.
They fixed one major problem that bugged other disc formats. One movie, one side, one disc. No more halfway through the movie having to flip the disc over or put the second disc in. So that was one headache solved right off the bat. This was at a time where high-def TVs were affordable for the home. So unlike Laserdisc and even Betamax, picture quality mattered more. Now VHS, we will give it starting in 1980, even though it came out earlier. We will say from 1980 until 2002, VHS dominated. Now 2002 was the first year that DVDs outsold VHS. 2013 would see Blu-rays outselling DVDs for the first time. So it gave DVDs 11 years of dominance. Now from 2013 until about 2019, Blu-ray was it. So it had 6 years dominance. Now both of these have been overtaken by streaming. Alright, these two here still sell, don't get me wrong, but they pull in nowhere near the same amount of revenue as they used to. So combined, these guys here had less than 20 years of dominance. Think about that. Less than 20 combined. VHS had 22 years. Plus, it was 2003 before DVD rentals overtook VHS rentals. So that gives them another year as far as a rental dominance. So 23 years as a dominant rental media. So you go from that to VHS has sold more units than these two combined. How? Well, let's look at the numbers. Now, I have looked at the numbers from several sources, and all these are concurrent in their information. Alright, Lion King, for example, 4 million Blu-rays, 4 million, 12 million DVDs. Alright, good. But guess what? 32 million VHS tapes. Let me say that again. The Lion King has sold 32 million VHS tapes. Wow. Titanic, under 1 million Blu-rays. Kind of surprising. 5 million DVDs. Right on track. But that movie sold 25 million VHS units. It was the double tapes, or really they sold 50 million tapes. No, we will not include that. We'll just 25 million. They were sold as one. All right. Toy Story, under 1 million Blu-rays. Once again, kind of surprising. 5 million DVDs. Not bad, but 21 million VHS tapes. Jurassic Park, once again, under 1 million Blu-rays. 2 million DVDs. Not bad, but 24 million VHS units. I mean, if you look at any movie that was released during the time of VHS, the VHS has outsold the DVDs and Blu-rays of that movie by multiples. All kinds of movies here, everything from Snow White, Seven Dwarfs, all the Disney movies, VHS tapes outsells them by multiples. One big reason why VHS was so successful among kid-friendly movies was because a VHS tape was sturdy enough to fight a kid. I mean, Laserdisc, DVDs, you get ooey gooey fingerprints, they drop it, they stomp on it, they get scratches on it. But a VHS tape's like, come on, bring it, kid, come on, sit on me, come on, drop me, come on, bring it, what all you got, come on, keep on coming with it, Not just kids, grown folks do that too, drop stuff, sit on stuff, stomp on stuff. DVD or Blu-ray or Laserdisc, can't take much of that, but a VHS tape's like, come on, bring it. Then with, DVD and Blu-ray, you had the FBI warnings and bumpers and all kinds of crap that are encoded on the disc to not let you skip it. A tape, however, hit fast forward. Not a darn thing they can do about it. And it took a long time before DVD recorders came along. So folks were still using tape to get stuff off of television. You could use a tape over and over again. Plus, VHS had been around for 20 years, and it takes a while before something new comes along that can replace a classic. So people were just used to tapes. And if you had a grandma that was hard to teach how to use a VCR, then you had to teach her how to use a DVD player. Boy, oh boy. Then you have nostalgia of hanging around video stores. You're with your buddy, you rounded up some change, you bought you a hot dog, and you rented a VHS. When people look back at hanging around video stores, it was renting VHS tapes. DVDs just did not hit that way. I mean, just go to Goodwill or any thrift store of that nature and you will see VHS outsells DVDs and Blu-rays there. There's the nostalgia factor. There are groups dedicated to collecting VHS. Now, you kind of have that with DVDs and Blu-rays, but nowhere near as popular, as enthusiastic, as emotional, as loving and caring as a VHS collectors group. The nostalgia factor is there and it's strong, and it will not be the same for DVDs or Blu-rays. It just won't. It's kind of like a king Sure, a king dominates his kingdom. He is the dominant figure. However, the previous king was better. The kingdom was in better shape. More money, happier people, bigger growth. So just because something dominates now does not mean it's better than something else that dominated previously. But once again, 22 years, 23 years if you include the rental market, that VHS dominated. Now I know everybody's going, well, DVDs and Blu-rays, they replaced VHS, they're king, they're dominant. Like VHS is the king, the most dominant thing in the home video market ever.